Okay, in this video we're going to talk about using solver, and the pollen's getting to my voice, so I apologize for the coughing or clearing my throat I'll have to do in the video. So what we have here is the covariance matrix that we've calculated, and here are the returns that we've calculated. So now that I know those, I want to see the return for the portfolio. Well, I just start out with weights, and those weights I just put in 1 for all of them. And then to sum it up, remember you just do alt equal sum, and that sums it up. So the portfolio return will be the sum product. Remember, sum product will take all these weights and multiply them by the returns. So that's the return of my portfolio. And notice that's really low because I only have 9% of the portfolio. This needs to add to 100, and I'll take care of that in a little bit. Okay, so for the volatility, I'm going to do this in different parts here. I'm going to do matrix multiplication twice, and I have to transpose. So I take the transpose of these weights, multiply by the covariance matrix, close parenthesis, multiply again, oops, multiply again by the weights, close parenthesis, control shift enter. Now that's the variance, not the volatility, so I come back here and do square root. And I like to do the square root last just because, you know, this way I'm used to doing it. You can do it in, you can type the whole thing in like this to start with if that's what you prefer. Okay, so now I want to get a certain return. So what I have to do, go to data, go to solver. Now I would have an equation for this if I could be short. I'm saying I'm not going to be short any of the assets, so I have to go to solver then and do this. So I go to solver and I say I want to set, let's do minimum variance first. I want to set this portfolio, this number, which is the portfolio volatility, to a minimum, and I want to do that by changing these cells. And I want to have certain constraints. Where are my constraints? My constraints are that all of these, I'm going to do it this way first. So all these have to be greater than 0. And I want to add another constraint. And that is that this has to be equal to 1. Click OK. So let's look at this real quick. I'm saying this cell to a minimum by changing these weights, subject to all those weights have to be greater than 0, and that the sum of them is equal to 1. Now, the newer versions of Excel, there's a little box down here that says make unconstrained variables greater than 0 or non-negative, I believe is the phrase. So you could do that, but I prefer you do it with this constraint right here. And then when I do that, when I click solve, it's going to give me these solutions. Click OK. So it has a new return. That new return is the weights times the returns, and that's the volatility. Let me show you one other thing with this. If I got rid of this constraint, so delete that, click solve, that gives me what you did before. This is when you could have short cells. So you can do that, and you can see that solver's doing what you want it to do. Okay, so let's go to the next step. I want to have a certain return. So what I want to do, if I want to have a return of a certain amount, I'm going to take this volatility, I'm going to minimize it by changing those cells, subject to the constraint that they all equal 1, and subject to the constraint that all of these are greater than or equal to 0. Okay, I want to add another constraint, and my other constraint is I want to make the return, or let's pick a number for the return. By the way, the return can't be greater than 11.81 because that's the biggest return in here. So let's do the return is going to be equal to 11.5, which of course would be 0.115. Click OK and solve, and that would be the way we would get a return of 11.5%. Now let's see what that says. It says I want to I want to have a return of 11.5. That's the constraint. In order to get that return, I want to minimize the volatility. So that's the way to do it. Now, if I want to have a particular volatility, what I'll say is I want to take this return, I want to maximize that return by changing those weights subject to the constraint that those weights are greater than 0 and that they sum to 1. I don't need that one anymore. I want to add a constraint subject to the constraint that the volatility is equal to, let's say the volatility is equal to 0.125. Okay, so what do we have here? We have this return. It's going to be maximized by changing those weights. The weights have to be positive, they have to sum to 1, and the volatility has to be equal to 0.125. I think that will work out, and sure enough it does. There we go with those weights give me that volatility. Now I could go in here and I could say, well, I want this volatility to be, and change this, equal to 0.1. When we did the minimum variance portfolio, the volatility was greater than 0.1, so when I do this, say solve, it's can't do it, right? Yours may say, in the newer versions, it may say can't find a suitable solution. But you can see the volatility didn't come out to be 0.1 just because it's not possible to do. So that is solver. Hopefully that will be clear enough.